There's the curtain.
Oh, that's cute. I'm watching
Okay. Dr. Darrell it is. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome. Hi, welcome to Southend Connect. We're coming to you live from the beautiful Ark Lodge right here in Columbia City. I'm your host tonight, Phyllis Porter, co-host. And every other week or so, we'll be live streaming to connect local businesses, organizations, and people who live right here in the South End as part of our influencers. We want to make sure we recognize the people in our community that are still working in the midst of the pandemic. They're leading, creating great ways, great change in Southeast Seattle.
Right on. And we have this great backdrop over here at the Ark Lodge. And just sitting here makes me really long for that experience of going to a movie again. But we're really glad to be here. So, every week or every other week, we're going to do these shows, Southend Connect Live. And we really have 3 purposes. One is to support small businesses like the Ark Lodge here in the South End. We also, as Phyllis said, really want to feature people who are getting things done, doing things in the South End, and making a difference. I think that's a really important message in this time, because I think sometimes we feel in the midst of pandemic and all the things that are going on, it's easy to get down. And I think it's important that you get to know some folks who are active and pushing forward and doing creative things and supporting the community. And then thirdly, want to get your help with southendconnect.org. And that is a website platform that's been created to feature small business, feature people who are doing things in the community, and feature ways to get involved, either through investing in the community or connecting with organizations like ARBOC, Rainier Beach Action Coalition, that are actively engaged in making the South End a really great place.
Well, I'm excited tonight. It's a great night. I've had the opportunity, along with Phil this week, to talk to one of our influencers. And he's going to talk to you tonight. He's going to tell you a little bit about what's going on down in the Rainier Beach in South End community. Our interviewer for tonight is Gregory Davis. He's the currently manager and also strategist of the Rainier Beach Action Coalition, which we call RBAC. And like Beast Mode says, it's all about that action. And RBAC is actually, they're taking action. They're putting their money where their mouths are.
They're not slowing down. The pandemic is not slowing them down.
No, because even with that, there's a $2.1 million grant that they just received, and so they're working with that to bring amazing. They have an amazing vision that's part of a steady grassroots community work, and so they're working on something that's called food innovation. So Gregory will be able to tell us a little bit more about that as he comes on tonight.
Yeah, they're doing a lot. The only thing I got going on is this COVID hair that just keeps getting longer and longer. That's all I got going on. So, also later in the show, we're going to showcase and highlight some really great T-shirts that you can purchase, and these are going to be the must-have apparel for the pandemic. And when you purchase these shirts, you'll be able to support the work of the Ark Lodge. And but we'll get into that a little bit later on.
But now, moving on, something that Phil and I have done each week, we actually pose a question to each other. And this week's question, we also pose it to the people that are out there in chat. So make sure, the chat line is open. Go ahead and fill in your answer, and we'll be happy to take a look at it and maybe bring it up on the show. But one of the questions, the main question for this week is, what have you seen, or what have you heard, or maybe read about in the South End that it's a discovery to you?
Yeah, and that's what I love about the South End is there's so much to find out and learn and discover here. It's such a rich neighborhood, so diverse, so many different streams and things that you can find out and discover. And my discovery came about actually from my daughter in Washington, D.C., who got me a Father's Day present. All she said is, Dad, at 5 o'clock, be at this address, and the only things I'm going to tell you are the letters BB. So I go like, great. She said, you won't figure it out. And so I get to, it's that day, Friday. This was a week after Father's Day. Mm-hmm. And I come in, go to the address, and it's this place called Archipelago, which is a restaurant on Rainier Avenue in the Hillman City area. And I'd heard about it, but I never experienced it. And so I get there. Sure enough, 5 o'clock, the door opens, and someone opens the door, and they ask my name, and I tell them, and they hand me a box. Mm-hmm. And it's this thing called a balikbayan box, which for Filipinos, it's something Filipinos here in America will send a balikbayan box to their family, and it's usually, you go to Target and you get clothes and medicines or little gadgets or things like that, and you just throw it all in this box and you ship it to the Philippines.
And it's called a what?
The balikbayan box. So it's like a little, it's just a way to take care of your family. Okay. And so it's like a gesture of love.
Sounds
exactly.
Like a care package.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so it's a lot of fun. Anyway, so this thing called the balikbayan box, and I bring it home, and it's all the ingredients and food for this amazing feast. Like one of the really cool things was this dish that was with handmade noodles and mm-hmm. lamb and a particular sauce that was called the Orozco sauce that they developed to honor a food scientist who went to Filipina food scientist who went to UW. Mm-hmm. And so we put this thing in, we're cooking it, and it's just all these scents and smells. We're just filling our kitchen. It tasted great, mm-hmm. and it smelled like home. It was just a wonderful experience. And that was my discovery, is like discovering Archipelago and the amazing Filipino food that world-class chefs are putting together there.
It sounds like, I can smell the aroma now.
It's good. It was good stuff.
I have to check it out.
Yeah. How about you?
About me, I've heard a few things this week, but I would say one of the discoveries that I found this week is even during the pandemic, I see that sense of community. Yeah. Here in Rainier Beach, Columbia City, Hillman City, all throughout the South End, people are still caring. We know that people have lost their jobs. We know that that extra benefit for unemployment has gone away, and that some people are struggling, and some people are just trying to make sure that they can get from day to day. But through all of that, Rainier Beach Action Coalition, again, we're talking about something that Gregory Davis has put forth for years in that community. People are really trying to help. Like this, we know that the schools will be opening, whether it's online or whether it's walk-in, whichever it's going to be. Kids will still need back-to-school supplies. So there was a drive last week. There was a big drive where Rainier Beach Action Coalition came in. They asked for backpacks. They asked for notebook paper. Calculators, whatever you can think of for school. It was part of the things that were asked for. And so I had the opportunity to actually pick up some of those supplies. And I had like a bundle. I had like 3 boxes in my car. I had backpacks. I had bags. And I delivered this. And it was just really good to see that even though, like I said, in time of despair for some, that people still are concerned about their community enough to say, you know what, let's still make sure that these kids have what they need. So I thought that was pretty good.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Each week, what we want to do is feature a local business. And the business we want to feature this week is Island Soul, run by Theo Martin. And Dr. Darrell hit it. You've got the video.
My father and my mother, who I call father and mother, fostered me, and they were just saints. Amazing, amazing people. And they fostered close to 15 children. I grew up in the central area of Seattle. Now, the restaurant was actually my father's restaurant. When we first started my father's business, it was just called Judkins Barbecue. He had a pit he built, used to smoke meat overnight. I was working at Nordstrom's as a shoe buyer, and my father got ill, and I started to help him with the restaurant. And one day my father made it clear that it was my time. If I want to be my own boss, I need to figure out how to run a restaurant and grow a business. My cousin had a restaurant downtown Seattle, and it was Caribbean and Latin, and I'm Caribbean and soul. So that's how we came up with Island Soul. We use the term family owned. I don't know if it's a term, it's the truth. As it started off with my father, and the lady who moved up from Louisiana was my aunt, and then myself, as starting to run the business. I wanted to teach my kids to help me as well. They were real young then, very young. But it was kind of like after school, we'll do homework in the restaurant, and then you can help me wash dishes when it's time to close. You know, so to have all your family, my youngest, who's now 17, she's been there since she was 14, but grew up working in the business. My two other children, Caitlin and Bryce, which is 25 and 28, grew up definitely working in the business. We all, on Saturday like today, we all will be in the building at the same time. We have a baby that was delivered or water broke, and to have the woman look at you and you look at her and she's like going like this and you're like, come closer, and she says her water broke, and I go, your water? And I'm looking like, where's the broken glass? You know, I need to go get some more water. And she whispers again, and one time she says, my water broke here. And I'm, you know, that was, you know, to have her come back, and now I know the baby. If you love people, you love what you do, you love serving, you love watching people smile and eat, it's pretty, you get hooked.
You know, I'm excited for our guest tonight, Gregory Davis. I've known him for a long time. He's worked in the community for a very long time. And like I said, he's here tonight. He's going to tell us about all the many things that he's done, from education to policy, you name it. It's going on at Rainier Beach Action Coalition. I remember a few months back, well, maybe about 2-3 years ago, when I was working on Rainier Avenue, when we were having issue with cars running into buildings, we had a safety campaign. And we reached out to Rainier Beach Action Coalition, Rainier Beach, and he stepped up. He got the community involved. He let them know what was going on down in Columbia City, and eventually some of the same work that he happened to help us out with moved into that part of Rainier Beach. So I'm happy to have you guys meet Gregory Davis if this is your first time hearing of him. Just listen up, and he'll let you know what Rainier Beach Action Coalition and what he is all about. Let's hear it, David. How are you this evening? You doing good?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, a little anxious about the times and, you know, what lies ahead, but I am doing well. Thank you.
Okay, well, we really appreciate you being with us this evening. As you know, Southend Connect, we reach out maybe twice a month to 2 or 3 individuals, people that are actually doing something or making change, making our community better. So when Phil and I sat down to discuss our next guest, of course, whose name came up, Gregory Davis. So Phil reached out. So I'm not going to hold you up. I just want to go right into it and just get your questions in, and so you can be on your way this evening for your family. So let's start out with the very first one. Magical question. What is your connection to the South End? Where are you from?
Well, thanks for asking. Hey, straight out of Compton, okay? and grew up there in the 60s and 70s during, even then, a time of social unrest and what you see from inequality and that kind of thing. But came to Seattle University to go to school. And from there, wound up marrying my college sweetheart, and we moved on to Beacon Hill. The interesting thing is that I've always organized where I've worked. So my connection to the South End started when I was executive director at Emerald City Outreach Ministries, which is now referred to as Urban Impact. So eventually joined the church there. So I've been a member, at Emerald City Bible Fellowship since about 2001. And as a result of being part of that work, got involved in the neighborhood planning work, started organizing organizations, and eventually formed a nonprofit called Rainier Beach Community Empowerment Coalition. And Rainier Beach Community Empowerment Coalition is the forerunner of what is today Rainier Beach Action Coalition, where I'm the managing strategist. And it's a neighborhood-led organization stewarding the Rainier Beach neighborhood plan.
Gregory, just a follow-up question. What do you feel like is kind of drove you, or was the impetus for you to be involved in community? What can you reveal a little bit about what drives your passion in that area?
Yeah, and it's really coming from my origins, growing up in Compton in the 60s and 70s, just seeing too much talent lost, be it to gang involvement, be it to drug activity. So always had a heart for young people. And so I knew that that's where they were, that they were in community. So got involved in organizations that always serve young people. So that's one of my kind of baseline capabilities is youth leadership development, because that's been the programming that I've been doing. Worked at Central Area Motivation Program, which is now Bird Bar. Worked at Center for Career Alternative, which provided employment opportunities for young people. Started out with Junior Achievement, which is an economic education organization centering on young people. It was always been driven by young people, trying to help community grow and build through the development and interaction of young people.
Yeah, what's your feeling about young people these days after being in that work for so long?
Yeah, talent, ambitious, short on experience, kind of wanting to take on the role of leadership, wondering when the baton is going to be passed. And as I tell them, as soon as you walk in the door, that's the baton being passed. We're not going to have a ceremony where we might have a ceremony where we pass you a baton, but ultimately you got to know as soon as you walk in the door and we start imparting knowledge and skills and resources, and that's the baton passing. So that's kind of how I see these young people now. Mm-hmm. In fact, one of the things that I've told them is if they need, I was going to say my role right now is if they need somebody to vouch for them and to lend some credibility to them, call me. And I'll talk to whoever is not listening to them and tell them to say, you need to listen to them, because these are our best and our brightest. Go over there and mess with somebody who's doing mediocre work. Don't mess with them.
I like that. That's good. That sounds like some good trouble right there.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, that's, when I think of your son Jarrell, you're saying some great things. So it sounds like you've put a lot of Gregory Davis daddy values into him, because he's doing exceptional work just as well as you are. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
in fact,
so
I'm in his room. If you notice some of the stuff on the wall, this is not my room. This is his room.
Oh, you're not gonna claim Kobe back there? That's Kobe back there, man. Come on.
I'll claim Kobe.
Look like the Lion King.
I love that.
Okay. So why don't you tell us, what are you doing now? I've heard quite a few things. I know that you have a little bit with the youth, you have some with food, you have so many things going on. Why don't you just let us know what's happening with you right now?
Yeah, thanks. Well, like I said, I'm running this organization, Rainier Beach Action Coalition, or affectionately known as RBAC. And just to throw a tagline in there, RBAC has your back. Okay. And what we do is we steward the Rainier Beach Neighborhood Plan. That means we're monitoring everything in that neighborhood, from public safety to economic development, to education, to transportation, to the environment, to the arts, to economic development. And some things are moving faster than others. We don't have our arms around all of it, but we are monitoring it through the Rainier Beach Neighborhood Plan. So the thing that you mentioned particularly that we're excited about is our food justice work, where we are looking to develop a food innovation center, kind of build out a food innovation district. But I gotta say that all of that is really being supported more by the fact that we try to identify needs of the neighborhood. We then try to find out what kind of policy we can change that is affecting the well-being of folks in the neighborhood. Then we do advocacy, and then we get the resources, and then we do the program implementation. So this work with the Food Innovation Center is really coming on the heels of a lot of other work we did in a lot of other areas. For example, the free Orca card that all high school students in the city now have. That was something that we organized young people in the neighborhood around to develop. One of the things that they found out was there's this policy that says you need to live 2 miles away from school in order to get a free Orca card. So we organized them, and now we have free Orca cards for all young people in the city. You know, the same could be said for Priority Hire. I'm not sure if you heard about Priority Hire, but this is an effort in the city to get folks who live in underinvested zip codes into the construction trade. And so that came out of this same formula of identifying a need, looking at policy that didn't befit or support the well-being of residents, doing advocacy, and then identifying resource. So now any City of Seattle capital construction project must have 25% of that construction workforce from neighborhoods that are underinvested in. So ultimately, the thing that we do rest on is that when we do advocacy, we don't do it just for ourselves. It's something that winds up having a citywide impact. And that's something that we're particularly proud of.
Yeah. What's the impact of that Orca card? For example, what does that mean for a student to have a free Orca card? And you know what that overturning that 2 mile whatever condition or rule. What was the impact of suddenly freeing these Orca cards up?
Yeah, well, one, it was a source of great esteem by these young people to be able to interact with leadership of like Metro, King County, Seattle, City of Seattle, City Council, and the mayor. So first of all, that's kind of one of the impacts, is them recognizing they can identify need and themselves have some influence on things that not only can affect them, but can have a citywide effect. But the other is happens to be able to support, you know, some of our young people who might have medical conditions, you know, be it asthma or whatever. And just imagine the idea of having to walk 2 miles to get to school and then show up in a classroom and then try to do some learning. That's just something that's just not reasonable. I think the other benefit is being able to connect educators to the importance of transportation. You know, we were talking to the leadership at the high school at that time, and they just didn't get it. They said their mission is education. And we were like, but it takes transportation to get the people to your school in order for you to fulfill your mission. So we wound up kind of broadening the mission of our educators to think a little bit more in terms of community needs. And that's some of the things that kind of really stand out about that.
You know, I love the multi-layered solution kind of aspect of what you just described. And so with the priority hire program, is that opening up employment that previously wasn't available? So like developers would come in and bring in a whole set of workers who weren't in the area and then leave, and so, you know, you feel like kind of like something got dropped on you and someone took all the money and ran. Kind of
Yeah. That was in fact the case. That's why we organized her on that, because when they demolished Rainier Beach Community Center and then rebuilt it, there was no one from the local neighborhood on those construction projects. They hired someone from out of Tacoma. And that was really what got folks kind of really upset and kind of organizing. So yes, now there are more people from our neighborhood into construction. It really supported the likes of Seattle Vocational Institute that has pre-apprenticeship programs, or ANU that has pre-apprenticeship programs. So now they have more people involved in their programs from folks of underinvested in income. And of course, we got to say underinvested in zip codes, because we can't say black or white, because folks tend to take exception with that and want to take lawsuits out because of the I-200 state that we're in. So that was part of the savvy that we had to engage in order to make this thing work. So right now, the project to keep an eye on is the Key Arena. That is a multi-billion-dollar project, and we are monitoring that for making sure that they stick to the 25% of folks from underinvested incomes on that project. So it's still underway. And yeah, we're excited about the outcomes. Check our website out, rbcoalition.org, where we do post the current numbers of workers that are being hired for the construction that's going on at the Key Arena.
Yeah. What is that again? rbaccoalition.org?
rbcoalition.org.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
It sounds like a really big job, Gregory. To support your staff. Who do you have working with you?
Oh, I'm so thrilled that you was able to ask me that question, because I think we are probably one of the more unique organizations in the neighborhood and probably the city. So we have about 40 workers, about 10 of them are full-timers, and about 60% of our workforce is made up of young people from the neighborhood. So the way that we describe it is that we hire people from the neighborhood to help implement the Rainier Beach Neighborhood Plan. So we focus on 15 to 24-year-olds, getting them involved in delivering the programming, from the public safety work to the food justice work. Again, 90% of our staff live in the Rainier Beach neighborhood. We have about, out of the 40, 17 African-American males. We have about 85% of our staff are African-American, or at least immigrant African. It's really what we consider part of our economic development strategy. Let's get this money in the hands of the people in the neighborhood. So one of those other kind of little tidbits is we have $1 million annual budget, and 80% of our budget goes to labor. So that means we're putting $800,000 back in the hands of people who live in the neighborhood through the fundraising we're doing, through grants, interaction we're doing with philanthropy. So we're really proud of that. And the young people themselves realize that. And you know, all this goes to say, you know, I know we talk about this $2.1 million that, you know, we were able to get from the city to purchase land in our neighborhood. But, you know, people are referring to it kind of as an award. Look, at it as earned income. We've been at this for 10 years. That's,
Work for that.
Yeah. And wow, imagine us not being able to own land in our own neighborhood, you know? So, you know, that's just the point. You asked about kind of who we got working for us, and it's the folks from Rainier Beach.
Sounds good.
I mean, it look like you're really doing it down there. You know, like I know you were involved in a lot of different things, and you and I even worked a few times. And when you talk about transportation, you know, just to actually see young people, seeing more people of color getting in areas like you said, transport. You have to get in out of the city. You have to get good. And when you think about Martin Luther King, thank you for get closer to them here. What is your longing? What would you like to see for the South End in the future? let's say in the next 10 years, you see a headline in the newspaper, you're at Seaback Airport, you get on a plane, and you see the headline that says, RBAC is blank, 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 blank. What would you like for that headline to be in the next 5 years?
Oh, that's a good question. I believe what I'm aspiring for to happen is probably less brick and mortar, nuts and bolts kind of things. But what I'd like to see is for people to declare, hey, they were right. The community knows. Don't second guess us anymore. Engage us. I always tell this story about when I went to this breakfast of this organization that we were involved in. They invited an elder from the Native American community. And it was a community that was being settled in by whites. And they asked the elders, where do we settle? And the elder said, you see that hill up there in that mud line? Don't settle below that. Well, they settled in the floodplain, right? So the point was, the community knows. The community knows. So when you come to us, have confidence that we can get the job done, that we know what's needed for us. Abandon any bias you got, any anxiety you got about what that investment might wind up in. Ultimately, I tell them, hey, we can't do any worse than what has been happening up to this point. Surely we've got confidence that we can do better because we've been at it and we know what the needs are for us. So, you know, you're coming in to the SeaTac Airport and you see that sign, Rainier Beach Action Coalition or Rainier Beach got it going on. They know what's best for them, is what I would say.
Right on. You know, when you mentioned the Food Innovation District and that building, yeah, I know it's brick and mortar, but what's the dream behind that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really more, again, that needs that's being identified. The baseline for the Food Innovation District and food justice in the neighborhood started at the Rainier Beach Urban Farm and Wetlands because the city of Seattle or Parks was trying to repurpose their horticulture center. And the residents said, well, how about an urban farm? Let's use a farm as a way to bring people together because we were known as the most diverse neighborhood in the area. Let's use the farm so that we can create health. And so we just picked up on what the residents were saying they needed and said, let's expand this throughout the neighborhood. So what you'll notice in the coming years is we're going to take over, oh, maybe I shouldn't say this. We're going to take over Henderson Street and you're going to see along the planter strips raised beds with vegetables in it, all the way from light rail to the lake. So link to lake is kind of the concept that we're talking about for food justice. But at the same time, we want what's happening around the light rail station to be in support of community. So when we say Food Innovation District, the actual work was to change the land use codes there so that if anybody's going to develop in that particular area and they want the additional height to develop their project, they got to have community benefit on the ground floor. The basic development practice these days is commercial, retail on the bottom floor, but we're saying that we also experience displacement of organizations, not only people. So we want to have community benefit on the bottom floor of any development that happens around the light rail station. So what we mean by community benefit, early childhood development, computer classes, jobs, job center, shared space for nonprofits to be able to meet in, gathering space, and then of course, food innovation. So be it shared kitchens or cold storage, those kind of things, to be able to tap into what got started by the residents in terms of the Rainier Beach Urban Farm and Wetlands. So that just kind of reminds me that, you know, there's a lot of people that we've been working with to kind of get to this, and just want to give them a shout out for their ideas, their support, and their innovation, so that RBAC can do the thing that it does.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, we learned a lot of good things today about RBAC. Like I said, I know that you are a lot of work in so many different areas, but for you to kind of break some of it down to give other people a knowledge of what's going on and what to expect in the future. I don't have any more questions. I think you gave us an earful this evening. Do you have any questions for Phil or I?
No, I don't have any questions, but I just do want to give you all kudos for this idea that you are seeding and birthing in Southend Connect. I just want to encourage anybody that's listening to go check out your website, because not only do you have beautiful people, beautiful faces on there, you got smart people, you got people who are doing work so that they can see again that what's happening in the South End, that there are folks who can do well, who can contribute. And I think the thing that probably doesn't get talked about the most is not only do we look to support our own needs, but when our needs are supported, the whole city winds up benefiting, the whole city. And that's another reason why we should just get that, not be second guessed and support it. So, but yeah, I just want to thank you all for doing what you're doing and keep at it. And if you need anything from me, just let me know.
Sounds great. Gregory, thanks again. I know you have a moniker, right? The mayor of Rainier Beach. And I don't know how you feel about that, but
well, I'll tell you how I feel about it. It's actually DUHMAYEH, the mayor. The mayor. And I tend to wear it very lightly because I do know that there are people in this neighborhood, Rainier Beach neighborhood, who've been working longer than I and probably deserve it more than I. But you know, once you get a moniker, what can you say?
Yeah.
You know?
But I know you've been in it since what, 2003? Is that how long the whole thing has been going? And that's a lot of years to be, you know, grinding and working. So yeah. Props to you. Just shout out for the great work you're doing, as well as just the vision of and being cognizant that the vision lies in the community, and you're helping that vision emerge. So thank you so much, Gregory.
Hey, you all are welcome. Yeah, keep up the good work, okay?
All right.
One more thing. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, how could they locate you? How could they contact you?
Yeah, so yeah, go to our website, www.rbcoalition.org. Excited about the social media work that we're also doing. When you go there, you'll see offerings by young people. Anything you see on their website was placed there by young people. Many of the images that you see on there were taken by young people, and it tells the story of RBAC, and that's a way that you can get in touch with us through the website. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right, peace.
Thank you. All right, thanks.
Yeah. All right.
And live.
Yeah, that was a great interview with Gregory. I really enjoyed being able to spend time with him. I had heard so much about RBAC, but to hear it from someone who's been so committed and in the work for so long was really heartfelt. I just felt, gave me some hope to hear the work that's being done, and knowing that, as Gregory said, it wasn't just him doing that work, but a whole set of people doing that work, and he was helped leading it. So, you know, we all have different takeaways. What were some of your takeaways, Phyllis?
You know, one of the things that he talked about passing the baton, how students or the youth should be ready. Sometimes you don't have that second chance to kind of prepare for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, just talking about that, I think with his strategy, the things that he's doing, he's actually he's teaching them how to pass, not only how to pass the baton, but how to receive the baton.
Yeah.
He talked about, first of all, you know, you have to find out what is the need. What is needed? It's more than a one-step process. You find the need, then you can change policy. Find out how you can change policy through that.
Yeah.
Advocacy. Get out. Do the footwork. Don't just talk about it, but you got to get out and do the footwork. And then finding resources. You know, he teaches them how to get out. There's grants, other forms of resources out there. He's teaching them all of those things. And then in the end, that action. That's where all that comes in. That action. You have to implement.
Yeah.
So they're ready. They're prepared. And it kind of reminds me of what's going on now with Black Lives Matter. What's going on with all the protests. There's so many young people out there that were just handed the baton. And they're
Yeah.
out there. They're helping to they're working to change some of the policies now. So I think definitely that was one of my takeaways was the strategy
Yeah.
that he's putting out there. I see why I see why they have him. He's a great strategist.
Yeah. I really like that vision he shared about link to lake and that median and kind of the visual representation of what a food innovation district can look like and how that changes the dynamic of your community to be a healthy community focused on really eat healthy food and all that stuff. So I really appreciate that. I love what he said about that they employ mainly young people and predominantly African American, young people of color, people from this neighborhood, and that he also said it sounds like we were kind of given an award, but they really worked on it. This is something that's been long, so it wasn't just like a gift or anything. This is a lot of work went into prepping and getting this award for the Food Innovation District.
Right.
But also, the idea that of a nonprofit, they don't just receive money. They're like an $800,000 economic disbursement back into the community through the salaries of mainly young people that work at Arbach, which I think is like an amazing another turn of how they're thinking through so many different ways of impacting the community. And hats off to Gregory and to all the people at Arbach who are making that great work happen. So I'm really excited. It gives me a lot of hope to hear
And like
what they're
earlier,
doing.
Like I said, you put your money where your mouth is. I mean, not only are they working to make these things happen in the community, but they make sure that the people that are involved, the people that live there, they're
Right.
actually getting something from this. They're working to
Yeah.
change their community. And also something he said, when the 98118 or the South End areas, when they do well, the entire city does well.
Yeah, it does. And with that, speaking of the 98118, this is going to be the fashion accessory that you'll want to have. And these are these great t-shirts that David McCrae, owner of the Ark Lodge Cinemas, is going to come up and talk to us about, give us some background on the design. I love it. It reminds me of all those Godzilla movies I used to watch as a kid at the movie house. But he'll talk about the design, a little bit about the artist, and then how to pre-order these great t-shirts. We're going to help support the Ark Lodge during this time of pandemic so that we can come back and enjoy movies together when this is done. David, come on up.
Okay, thank you for inviting me. I'll just,
Yeah.
as usual, it's fun to try and negotiate these things through a pandemic. So as everyone knows, the movie theater got closed down in March, along with every other movie theater here in across the country. So no one is running movies now, and we're all missing the smell of popcorn and all that right now. So during that time, while we were waiting to figure out other ways to raise some more revenue for the theater, while we're trying to negotiate, make our way through this, as we go through phase 1, and now we're in phase 2, the movie theaters really won't be able to open up until we're in a safe phase 3. And even then, so we're going to be limited in what we can do. So one of the local artists who live around here, his name is Nick Gucker, Gucker, and he is he's a patron of the movie theater. He's a neighbor. He lives here in the neighborhood. He is a fantastic artist that mainly works in fantasy and horror designs. He's got a great website. You can go check it out, nickthehatart.com. And he just donated his time, came up with this fantastic illustration. What we really wanted to do with this was come across with an idea of, this is what we have to do while we wait to get things back to normal. Let's mask up. Let's keep our distance, and even our monsters need to be safe as they are out and creating havoc and chaos and having all the fun that monsters want to have. But even monsters want to wear their masks and maintain social distance while they're stomping the city. So it's available to buy now. Right now, we're just shipping them online, where they're available to pre-order at arklodgecinemas.com. If you know how to spell Ark Lodge, you know how to get there. ARKLODGE cinemas.com. I'm kind of stumbling at how to spell cinemas right now. So anyway, we really appreciate your support. We're really hoping to be back here and having the popcorn going and right now, the pre-sales are going great. We're at about 100 sales so far. Thank you all for your support. You're really helping out the theater a lot, and we really want to get back to having this done soon. So thank you, and feel free to pull me off the camera here, Phyllis. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me? Anyway.
How long will the T-shirts be on sale?
The T-shirts will be on sale at least until we reopen in phase 2. I mean, the main goal of them is to work as a kind of a public service announcement. Let's all stay safe. Let's all wear our masks. And like it says stay safe in the 91818. 98118, so we can all have a movie date. Appreciate everybody. Thank you.
All right, thank you, David. We appreciate that. You heard from him, 98118. Get your T-shirt so you can have a date when we reopen. So thank you again, David. We appreciate that. You know, we're coming to a close. That time is narrowing down, and just wanted to say, first of all, thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. It was really great having Gregory Davis come on and talk to us a little bit, and also to have David come in and talk to us about, you know, the Ark Lodge, the T-shirt sale. So please check it out. Next week after next, it's going to be like 2 weeks before we're back on the air, before we live stream again. So we want you to check us out. Our next guest is going to be from Peace Peloton. It's Doc Wilson. In case you haven't heard of him, check it out. Peace Peloton. He's on his bike with 200 to 300 riders every other week, going to different businesses within the community. During the pandemic, he wants to make sure that the South End and other communities are getting that economic boost. So each week, every 2 weeks, they travel out. They patronize different restaurants. So he'll be here. And then coming in September, our guest will be Chief Carmen Bax. So come on back and see us in a couple of weeks. It's been a great night again, so thank you everybody, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Be safe and mask up.